About 14 or 15 years ago, Ford came up with a Wildtrak package for its Ranger Ute. The idea was pretty simple. A little bit more money buys you a sporty look and feel while still retaining all the dual cab Ute features that people seem to like so much. Now, a decade and a half later, Ford's come up with its Wildtrak package for the Everest SUV. But for my money, what I want to know is, does the mortgaged up family who needs a 7-seat wagon actually own a jet ski and have an Instagram account? Maybe, maybe not. The Wildtrak slots into the Everest lineup between the V6 Sport model and the Platinum flagship model at $74,704. That's less than $2,000 more than the Sport and almost $5,000 change from the Platinum. The extra money gets you the Wildtrak front and rear fascias, leather trim, heated and ventilated front seats, ambient lighting, and the panoramic sunroof. The full details are included in our written review at carsguide.com.au. The Everest is based on the Ranger dual cab Ute, but instead of the Ute's leaf rear springs, the station wagon Everest gets coil springs, although it's still a solid rear axle, not independent suspension. But interestingly, the Everest does retain the Ute's full 3,500 kilogram towing capacity, which is a bit of an achievement. The Everest's other design brief was to be an utterly capable off-roader, so low-range gear ratios are part of the package. The V6 engine also means the Wildtrak gets the option of constant four-wheel drive when you need it. So what exactly does the Everest get in Wildtrak form? Well, it's largely cosmetic. You get the grey front grille surround, you get specific bumpers front and rear, you get the silver roof racks, and you also get these specific 20-inch wheels. Now, this is interesting because there's an option for 18-inch wheels with all-terrain tyres versus these road-oriented ones, and we'll get to that in a minute. The other thing that the Wildtrak introduces to the Everest range is this colour. It's called Luxe Yellow, and for mine, it's last year's colour in a big way, but some people like it. Inside the Wildtrak version of the Everest, you get the charcoal leather treatment. You get some Wildtrak logos stitched into the seats, and you get the contrasting orange stitching, which actually looks better than it sounds. There's plenty of storage space, dual zone, climate control, aircon. You get the big infotainment screen. The connectivity is really good. It connects with your phone really quickly and easily, and the voice recognition works really well too. I particularly like the tilt and reach adjustable steering wheel because that means every member of the family who has to drive this thing can find a comfy position. The other Wildtrak addition that you will like, trust me, is this full-length panoramic sunroof. Even if you leave the glass closed to the elements, you can open the blind and let the light in because with all this charcoal leather and black headlining, believe me, this thing can start to feel like a Siberian nightclub. So I'm told. The second and third row accommodation in the Everest is among the best in the business, and here's why. There are air vents and reading lights in both the second and third rows, so important for kids. There's also a fan control in the second row and 2 charge points. There are even cup holders in the third row, although I would suggest anyone small enough to be in those seats probably shouldn't be allowed to have liquids on a road trip. However, the other reason that this car is so much better than a dual cab Ute for a family is very simple. On dual cab Utes, the big criticism is always that the rear seat, well in this case the second row, the backrest is too upright. Well, this one reclines. Brilliant, simple, and why don't they all do that? You can buy a Ford Everest with the advanced twin-turbo 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine, but if you tick the Wildtrak box, then this is the motor you get. It's the 3-litre V6 turbo diesel. Now that's no bad thing because this is a great motor. It's 184 kilowatts of power, 600 newton meters of torque. The only catch is that technically it's getting a bit long in the tooth. There is a rumour that it powered the Ferris wheel when the Colosseum first opened, but I was there that day and I can confirm that's not true. The first thing anybody is going to comment on when they drive this car for the first time is how refined and smooth and relaxed it is. This engine just does it so easy. It's got plenty of torque. The 10-speed automatic is very clever. It's got a gear for every occasion and it's smart enough to know when that occasion is. So you're never caught in the wrong gear. You're never waiting for the turbo to boost up. There's no lag. It's very immediate and very responsive. It's a great engine in that sense.
It will use a little more fuel than some of the more modern turbo diesels. Ford says 8.5 litres per 100 on the combined cycle. I'm getting closer to 10 and a bit. And that's in real world usage, so bargain on that. But this car would be such a great companion on a long interstate trip. And if you're feeling adventurous, it would be awesome off-road too, provided you put the right tyres on it. But this car will go anywhere that pretty much any other dedicated four-wheel drive off-roader will go, because it's that good. I mean, it's based on a Ranger Ute, let's not forget. So it's got the smarts. It's also got a coil-sprung live rear axle instead of a leaf-sprung axle like the Ranger, and that's part of the secret to its ride quality. However, its ride quality is compromised a little bit, and that's by these tyres. Now, we talked earlier about there being an option tyre and wheel package. This is on the 20-inch road-oriented wheels and tyres. The option at no extra cost is an 18-inch alloy wheel with an all-terrain tyre, and that's the one to have, because that really opens up this vehicle's off-road potential. It'll go a lot further on all-terrains than it will on these, let me tell you. And also, it will allow the suspension to work a bit better. The current tyre on this car has virtually no sidewall. So while the suspension wants to work over bigger bumps and lumps, when you hit smaller ripples and tree roots under the bitumen and speed humps and joins in the road, the tyre, which is your first line of defence, doesn't have enough sidewall to let the suspension do its thing. So it can feel a little bit choppy on that small bump stuff. Other than that, I mean, it's an Everest. It drives really well. The accommodation's good. I really like the fact that this being the V6 gets the sophisticated transmission, which gives you the option of four-wheel drive automatic. So that the centre diff is left open, so you can drive it in four-wheel drive on a slippery bitumen road. And on a day like this, on a road like this, it could be the difference between you making it home and making a new friend in the local tow truck driver. So what would I change? Well, apart from those tyres, the gear shift. Ford really needs to bite the bullet and give this thing either paddle shifters or a T-bar selector that can be operated manually with ease. At the moment, you've got fiddly little switches to control the gears up and down, and just to maximise the irritation value, they're black on black plastic. So they're almost impossible to spot on the move. You've got to take your eyes off the road, forget about it. Give us paddle shifters, which also work very well off-road, or make the T-bar more intuitive. But this system is no good. This is the worst aspect of the car, I reckon.
The official combined fuel economy figure for the Everest is 8.5 litres per 100 kilometres combined. Real-world experience with this engine, though, suggests closer to 10 litres is the real number, giving a range of about 800 kilometres in normal highway running. You'll also need to add AdBlue to the Everest, so that needs to be factored in as an ongoing running cost. Check out the written review for the full safety specification here, but take it as read, the Everest is as good as any sub $100,000 SUV when it comes to safety. There are 9 airbags, including a centre airbag, and full-length curtain bags for each of the 3 rows of seats. The latest driver aids also feature, including autonomous emergency braking, lane keeping assistance, blind spot monitoring, and on the wild track, standard tyre pressure monitoring. The Everest hasn't been crash tested, but assumes the Ranger Ute's 5-star ANCAP safety score on the basis of shared engineering.
Right from the word go, this vehicle made me wonder if that whole weekend escape fun machine thing had any relevance to a family wagon. Well, I guess it doesn't do it any harm, does it? It's still an Everest, and it still does Everest things. I reckon the panoramic sunroof alone is worth the $2,000 that the Wild Track costs over the next model. So yeah, the value for money equation really does stack up. But I'll take mine in any colour that isn't that, and I'll take mine with the 18-inch alloy wheels and the all-terrain tyres, because according to Instagram, I'm going to need those tyres when I go to launch my new jet ski.